It's October 2016. I was just 11 at the time, and my biggest hobby was playing mobile card games. Card Wars, Hearthstone, Clash Royale, the whole 9 yards. Screw growing up with computers and consoles. However, the past couple of months saw me lose almost all of my passion for the genre. All of these games were fun in the moment, but could never stand the test of time for me, with it all ending the same way. Burnt out with nothing left to learn or do. So in the meantime, I was replaying some of my favorite games, Plants vs. Zombies 1 and 2, mobile edition of course, for what felt like the millionth time, just waiting. Deep down I still loved mobile card games, but I was gonna need something truly one of a kind if I was gonna keep playing them. And then a cosmic coincidence happened. Just when I thought this chapter in my life was about to come to a close, it just became more alive than ever. Finally, the game that could stand the test of time was here, and its name was Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. This game quickly went on to become one of my favorite games of all time, thanks to its inventful and unique gameplay. Not only did it keep me captivated, it spawned a whole new fan base dedicated to optimizing every single aspect of the game. However, this momentum would be brought to a painful, screeching halt. In 2018, an indefinite dark age occurred. No new cards or big updates were ever released again, being left to rot and spiral into obscurity. But something interesting and unlikely started to happen. People just wouldn't stop playing the game, and over half a decade later, the perennial hunt for optimizations is still ongoing with an extremely active community to boot. I haven't seen a whole lot of discussion about Heroes in the wider gaming sphere, other than it was a cool game that sadly wasn't advertised well and never updated again, but still surprisingly has an active fan base. So I wanted to take the opportunity to dissect this accurate but also kinda gross oversimplified sentiment and explain why this game is so special to me. It's such a shame that not enough people know about this game and the many cool and unique things it did or attempted, and how it managed to beat so many expectations. Heroes is by no means a masterpiece, dear God it's not. But that's kind of the thing though. Why is there still such a dedicated community that still cares about a random dead mobile card game that has had over a 6-year content drought with over 50% less cards than the game is copying? How are people still finding out new things about the game all this time later? What caused the downfall and what made people stay? Hell, why do I even care about it? It's just PvZ but a card game after all. Well, we'll get to that. I know that 99.99% of people won't care and will never care, but that won't stop me from trying. This is a love letter to Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. Upon the global launch, the game was met with warm reviews and a highly viewed trailer. It seemed like everyone was genuinely surprised that the game had much more depth than what appeared on the surface for being another Hearthstone knockoff. So what made this game stand out from the rest of the pack? Heroes has this deeply intricate and fun gameplay combined with unique mechanics and bundled with some absolutely batshit insane RNG, in a mix for one of the most enjoyable and complex games I have ever experienced. The amount of times where I've sat there completely flabbergasted, gobsmacked, surprised by what just unfolded in Heroes is higher than literally any other game I've ever played. But how does it achieve this? And to explain that, let me take you through an average multiplayer match of Heroes. After loading in, you're greeted with your starting cards. If you don't like one of them, then re-roll for a different one. And if it sucks even more, then tough shit. Afterwards, you draw a superpower card, which just think of it as a normal card but stronger and cheaper. Now the game actually begins. You start with one sun or brain that you can spend on cards, which you should do if you want to win, I guess. Cards are divided into 4 categories: minions, the actual guys existing on the board; tricks, which directly affect the game by drawing cards, adding or minusing stats from minions, healing HP, or just destroying a minion in one swift blow that sometimes violates the Geneva Convention; environments, which passively buff a minion that's on it; and superpowers. Each hero has 4 that they can draw in a match, with one of them being their signature power. All superpowers cost 1 and can be any of the previous 3 card types. As the match progresses, at the start of each turn, you'll draw a card and get an extra brain or sun that can be used to play even stronger cards, and repeat this cycle until one of you reaches 0 health. Hopefully not you, and that's the game. Cool. Now I'll spend the rest of the video telling you how fucking complex this game can get, you breathing sack of flesh. Firstly, you might have noticed that the turn system is a bit different than most other collectible card games. Instead of a normal back and forth, it's asymmetrical. I think I just heard all of your minds simultaneously get blown at once. Or that's just someone breaking into my house. The turn system is split up into 4 distinct phases. Phase 1 allows the zombie hero to play only zombie minions. Phase 2 lets the plant hero go crazy. They can play any card type they want. But this is where it gets interesting. Phase 3 allows the zombie hero to play only tricks and environments, otherwise known as the trick phase. And phase 4 is the battle phase, where everybody fights to the death and blood and whatever the fuck blood is for plants is spilt. Yeah, and again, this battle phase is special. See, it's not like any minion can attack any minion they want, oh no. See, the lanes are divided into the heights lane, ground lanes, and water lane, or just lanes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that's the order they attack in. And most minions can only attack what is in front of them. And also, cards have their own unique abilities and shared traits among them. Like some minions are amphibious, meaning that they can be played in the water lane, and some are strike through, which allows them to both hit a minion and the hero at the same time, and plenty of others. These traits can be combined and even applied to minions that don't normally have them. And cards aren't just split into these 4 loose categories, because that would be fucking stupid, and this game isn't stupid. Most of the time. They are mainly divided into classes. There are 10 in total, with 5 being for each side. There are 22 different heroes, and each hero is a combination of 2 classes, meaning they can only create decks with the cards within those classes. During the match, you most likely will get damaged. Noob. When this happens, your block meter will charge anywhere from 1 to 3 segments. When this meter is full, it will block any incoming damage and make you draw a superpower card. You can draw up to 3 of them this way, and you can only block 3 times, so when you're out, yeah, good luck with winning after that. But most importantly, Plants vs. Zombies Heroes is very RNG based. You will both win and lose due to nothing more than the cruel mistress of chance. It's also very much a huge game of rock, paper, scissors on multiple levels. But man, when you overcome the odds, there's no better feeling. So you can already see how heroes can be a fucking lot, but to only say that doesn't do the justice that this game deserves. I need to do something more. Here is a rough timeline I just created of what I'm going to unofficially call the 5 eras of PvZ heroes. The first 4 eras are the 4 card sets that were released during this game's lifespan. And the 5th one over there, I'm still workshopping a name for it. I'm sure I'll figure it out later. Anyways, let's start off with set 1, the beginning of PvZ heroes. While set 1 was the most simplistic era there was, with its small card count and far more basic cards and effects, there were already inklings of something greater. For one, there are several heavily influential gameplay mechanics that are entirely unique to heroes. The biggest one of these has to be the turn order. Its asymmetrical design allows for plays and strategies that could only exist in this one game. And not only does this out-of-the-box approach to the game's design make it distinct from every other card game around it, it also greatly benefits from this creativity. Zombies have to think about how they're going to respond to the plants by restricting the amount of brains that they spend on minions, because what if they need it for tricks or environments to respond to what the opponent does later on? Or just saying, screw agency, I'm gonna go all in on minions and hope my opponent doesn't have the correct resources to respond with. And while the plants have the first response to the zombie minions, they don't when it comes to the zombies' tricks and environments. So they have to think about how they're going to respond to the zombie minions while also trying to play around and anticipate the zombie tricks and environments. It's just amazing. The turn order is the foundation that every other mechanic is built upon, and it creates all these extra layers of interaction and strategy, and it makes for an incredibly engaging gameplay loop that makes the players think far deeper than what a simple back and forth would have done in this game. And the cool thing about all of this is that it's actually balanced. The turn order doesn't benefit one side over another, and that's not an easy thing to achieve when experimenting with a completely game-defining mechanic like this one. And other unfamiliar ideas such as the board introduces the mechanic of multiple lanes, where most of the time minions can only hit what is in front of them. It just adds another degree of strategy to the mix instead of having any minion hit anything they want. For instance, the set 1 card Toxic Waste Imp has the ability to give every imp deadly on the board while alive, a powerful ability that makes any damage that the zombie deals to a plant fatal. So placing Toxic Waste Imp in the furthest possible lane would be the most optimal strategy in order to preserve its effects the longest. And by using another one of its abilities, Amphibious, making it able to access the water lane, the furthest one back, which would make this manlet the most secure there than any other lane, because if you placed him in the earlier lanes, it could die sooner in combat and make you lose its powerful ability. However, in the case where you just need to do damage to the opponent's face quickly with a minion, the Heights lane would be the best bet since it's the first one that can fight. Also, I just love how there's multiple designs of the board that fits each of the heroes' themes and personalities. So good, man. While the turn order and the board acts as the basis for everything wacky, the block meter on the other hand is just the epitome of RNG. The amount of times that this piece of shit has either saved my ass or just royally screwed me over is crazy. Like I've said before, every time a hero's hit, they charge anywhere from 1 to 3 segments. The thing I didn't mention is that they all have an equal chance of happening, so you can agonizingly roll 8 ones in a row and take a lot more damage, or roll 2 3s and 1 2 for the fastest possible charge, gaining more superpowers and keeping your HP higher. All card games have some level of randomness embedded in them, but the block meter is just that extra step in making some truly memorable moments. And by no means are any of these mechanics convoluted to learn either. The tutorial does a great job at explaining everything to the player. Also, I like the nod to PvZ1 by opening up the different lanes as it progresses. And oh yeah, each phase lasts for 50 seconds. Do you need that much time usually? No, but it's nice anyways. The reason why I highlight these 3 mechanics right away is because they're the base for everything else in Heroes, from how you use a card during a phase to the outcome of an entire match. I know that some of these mechanics exist in other games, but when combined together, it makes something truly unique and remarkable. Trust me, if Heroes didn't have any of these, or if instead they were just some gimmicky fucking schlock, I wouldn't be talking about it. People still wouldn't be playing it 6 years later after its final set of cards were released. This game would simply be another forgettable, unremarkable clone. Now is probably a good time to discuss the cards now. Jesus fucking Christ. There are 150 cards when the game first launched globally, with some being simple cards that were just stats to ones that have such powerful abilities it changed how the entire game is played. But to best explain the cards during this time, I would like to show you some of the old decks I used to run back in the day. A real look into what the fuck my stupid dumb mush brain thought was actually good to run. Now, I love mushrooms, don't really know why, just one of those things I liked ever since I was a kid. Like, just look at these things. They look like they belong in some fictional fantasy land made by an old guy smoking a pipe or some shit. My point being, Kabloom heroes have mushrooms, so I use Kabloom heroes. And just like their name implies, they have highly explosive playstyles that prioritize rushing the opponent down with chaotic aggression. I specifically use Solar Flare a lot because of her signature superpower that gives you +1 stun for the rest of the match when used, which is just crazy good, especially if you drop first. And also her solar typing allowed for access to other cool cards, like the removal cards Whack a Zombie and Squash, strike through cards like Bloomerang and Fume Shroom, and sun producing cards like Sunflower, if you want to trade away some early game offense in order to afford more expensive cards sooner. Anyways, here's my go-to strategy. Turn 1, Shroom for 2. Get 2 mushrooms in the same lane for the cost of 1. Perfect. Favorite card in the game. I love the team up abilities so much. It's just so fucking good that I'm gonna fucking scream. Turn 2, Buff Shroom. Gives all mushrooms a +1/1 and grows the horde. Turn 3, Punish Shroom, so I could compensate with random 2 damage shots whenever a mushroom would eventually fall. And if I was lucky enough to draw a Pine clone on turn 4, which turns everything into a 3/3 clone, I would play it. Because not only do I love the loss of self-identity and individualism, but also 3 strength plant minions are just secret survivalist. More about that later. Once this was all in place, I'll try to keep my board alive by using Solar Flare's regular powers to nerf the zombies down or destroy them with either either whack a zombie or squash, or just finish them off with Berry Blast, probably the most versatile card in the entire game. Its concept is simple: for 2 sun, do 3 damage. Whether being a zombie minion or the zombie hero, 3 damage is nothing to scoff at. A good amount of zombies have 3 health or under, and since you could always hit your opponent's face with it, it is never going to break your hand like a removal card could. And if my minions start to die off and the opponent's health was on low, using strike through minions would usually finish the job. Another one of my favorite decks was the sports archetype, using the hero to smash, because he's a big gargantuar and his luchador outfit is just badass. I also like the little imp dude on his back, and his signature superpower, being able to destroy any plant with 4 strength or less, is in contention for one of the best superpowers in the entire game, because it can take out a wide range of plants. And since most hardy decks rely on their high health and controlling powers to win games, this is very beneficial to have. Anyways, my actual deck. Let me give you my quintessential strategy. Turn 1, Arm Wrestler, strong dude that gets +1/1 whenever a plant is played in the same lane as him. Turn 2, Sumo Wrestler. He stays in this gravestone until the trick phase. When this ball of cholesterol is revealed, he belly flops so hard it makes the plant move out of fear. Hint, you want to move it to the Arm Wrestler. Turn 3, Team Mascot. At the start of every turn, he gives all sports zombies a +1/1 buff. Turn 4 is the cherry on top, Zombie Coach. He makes all sports zombies immune to damage for only that turn. They can still be nerfed or removed, but it's still extremely useful, especially on turn 4. On top of the continuous buffs that Team Mascot would provide, I would also run Coffee Zombie, which gave all zombies a further +1/1 and the Frenzy trait, where if the zombie kills a plant and survives combat, it would do a bonus attack. Party also has access to Rolling Stone and Weed Spray, which can both destroy plants with 2 strength or under, making it effective for dealing with early game plants and ones that have had their strength nerfed. And just in case if I really need an extra push in closing out the game, I would use Maniacal Laugh, which gave an insane +5/5 buff in Frenzy, which could easily break through the plants' defenses. Of course, there are thousands of decks out there than just these. Like if you replace some cards in the sports deck with Flag Zombie, which makes their zombies cost 1 less, you would get a vastly different deck, in which you trade some potential early game dominance with a low statted minion, in order to try to get your more expensive zombies on the board sooner. And this is only one tiny change you could do. Like, I'm still limiting myself to set 1 cards only, but what if we opened up our eyes? Like, you need those to see. For example, if you rain Secret Agent, a trick that bounces a zombie back to your hand and also gives them a +3/3 buff, you would get a super strong dude who costs the same amount, which could establish heavy pressure onto the opponent, which they would probably just remove them the next turn, rendering this entire play useless. But hey, it could work, and that's what matters. Also, random story, when I was around like 4, I used to watch my parents play Plants vs. Zombies on their computer from the fucking Stone Ages, and whenever a new wave was approaching and it would play the soundbite, "The zombies are coming," I would just run out of the room crying. What a fucking coward. Anyways, for the plants, you could run a more bullseye-centric deck. A trait where a minion's attack won't charge the opponent's block meter, you could whittle down your opponent with small bursts of bullseye damage and then finish them off with a strong non-bullseye attack without any worry of them blocking at all. Every one of the 22 heroes all have a deck that could be aggro, defensive, conjure, ramp, or stupid-ass meme style of play, and there are a whole bunch of different subsets within these broad categories. A super fun one is OTK, or a 1-turn kill, where as the name implies, defeat the opponent in only 1 turn. Cat Lady or Zomblob are obvious candidates for this, with their abilities to get an insane strength stat if comboed correctly. And I'd even talk about the opponent's deck that you could be facing in the match either. Remember that Tub of Lard Sumo? Since he's such a common turn 2 play for hardy heroes, if you correctly predict that your opponent's turn 2 gravestone is in fact a sumo, you could place your plant in the same lane, forcing them to move your plant to safety. Or just use Gravebuster or any other grave removal option instead and save your brain from the curse of being wrinkly. And even though I enjoyed running mushroom decks a lot, they always had a major downside, and it's their poor stats. And I'm sorry, Buffshroom, but you're not gonna solve that anytime soon. So that's why Pine Clone is so incredibly good. 3 strength on a plant is a bit of a cheat code for survivability, because they can't be targeted by highly used removal cards like Rolling Stone or Rocket Science, which both Health cannot destroy a plant with 3 strength. Or if you're a Mega Grow hero, just run Black-Eyed Pea, who grows by 1/1 every time a zombie trick is played, which heavily discourages trick usage from the zombies. Or going even further, Super Brains doesn't have access to small removal cards like Weed Spray or Bungee Plumber, so he can get overrun pretty easily if he goes against an opponent running a cheap aggro deck. Same goes for Wall Knight, but just in a different way. See, most heroes' superpowers usually have a mix of defensive, damage dealing, and utility, but Wall Knight is unique in the fact that he lacks any damage dealing superpowers like Meteor or Scorched Earth, making him much more prone in an event where their minions or tricks can't deal enough damage to the zombies. So when you factor everything in, like all of the other heroes, classes, abilities, tribes, combos, game knowledge, and RNG that just pertain in set 1, you can see how this can create a game that can keep people playing for hundreds if not thousands of hours. And look, I've only barely scratched the surface of this game. I could sit here and talk about all of the minutia about heroes, and I tried, and about 3.4k fucking words later I still realized that I have, and I decided to scrap it all. Like, I'd even mention most of the other cool traits or the card Teleport, which completely changes how the game is played by allowing the zombie hero to play minions during their trick phase. Yeah, that's pretty fucking crazy. Or even most of the tech as well, like purposely leaving your opponent's weaker minions on the board to prevent them from placing stronger ones in the future, and abusing their low stats to charge your block meter to possibly avoid a stronger attack from hitting your face, and to draw more superpowers sooner to outpace your opponent. There is just so much you need to know and learn, and that's what makes this game so compelling to come back to over and over. The more you get invested, the more you will uncover, and yet it elegantly remains as a casual experience that offers this stuff as the player plays more and more. And it's all built upon that amazing structure of the turn system, board, and block meter. To repeat what I said from earlier in this video, Plants vs. Zombies Heroes is like a massive game of rock, paper, scissors on various levels. Some heroes will be stronger or weaker against other heroes. Same applies to all cards and strategies too. I know that my ramblings may make this game knowledge come across as esoteric or some shit, and to some extent it can be, but I assure you it's not. It's really not. And for the longest time, I wanted to become one of these players who knew everything about the game, and the players who were considered the top dogs, or I guess top plants and zombies, were at the highest echelon of the online ranking system, Ultimate League. God, I wanted to reach it so badly when I was younger, but despite my constant grind and determination, I just simply wasn't good enough, being forever stuck in Gold League. I knew that one day I would climb the mountain, but little did I know how long that would take me. Now, I need you to understand how intense a game of Heroes can get. So let's talk about winning and losing. I've never felt such unbridled emotions while playing any other game before or since Heroes. In the case of winning, reading your opponent like a goddamn children's book is so rewarding because of how punishing this game can be at times. At any point in a match, you are left up to the mercy of the game deciding whether to fuck you over or not. But when those wins start raking in, God, you truly start to feel unstoppable. However, these acts of domination get a bit boring after a while because you just keep on winning and winning and winning. Where's the struggle? It's turn 8. I'm playing as Grass Knuckles with a Conjure deck, and currently, I'm completely screwed. My deck is quickly running out of steam and I can't deal enough damage to win. But still, I play out my hand, buffing my Muscle Sprout and making it do 2 bonus attacks to bring my opponent down to 2 HP. Still not enough. And even worse, they drew a card that gave their big guy Frenzy. Despite how close I came to winning, it will all be in vain. What happened next though showed me why Heroes is so amazing. I rolled a 2, a 3, and another 3, making me block on only 1 HP. This was a 1 in 9 chance of happening. If I had rolled anything less, I would have lost right then and there. Then I drew Power Pummel, which does 2 damage in every ground lane. If I were to have drawn any other superpower there, I would have lost my opportunity to close out the game at the absolute perfect timing, as I surely would have lost next turn. My hand too was flawless. 1 minion to grow the muscle sprout by 1/1, then plant food which grows it by a further 1/1 and makes it do a bonus attack, and then my time to shine made it do another. If I didn't have this exact setup and luck, the game would have turned out completely differently. The way that the entire dynamic of a game can shift from one player to another in a fraction of a second, it just creates this always changing and heavily punishing aura around each fight. You will have to adapt in each situation because of the sheer amount of variety that the game holds. It's this gameplay that I've strived for in other games, but simply cannot find it like how it's done in Heroes. But there are the other sadder times, where you have your heart absolutely ripped out. I was running a set 1 only sports deck, and my opponent had a very modern version of a heal deck, a strategy known for its very infuriating way of reversing all of the progress you made in an instant. At one point in the game, they had 30 HP and I had 9. And through determination to not instantly concede high stats and good plays, I was able to get their HP down to 15 and found myself in a situation where my first zombie would make them block and the last 2 would deal 16 damage to them. Unfortunately, my opponent drew their superpower Scorched Earth, minusing 1/1 from each zombie on the ground lanes, causing me to only deal 14 damage, and proceed to get infinitely comboed to death by the Heartachoke in lane 4, which deals damage to the zombie hero corresponding to the amount of the plant hero heals. And since it's in the environment Venus Flytrap planet, which makes all damage that the plants do here heal the plant hero, it causes a cycle of them healing and then dealing more damage, which eventually made me lose. The agony of my opponent BMing me by stalling to use their superpower, the drawn out nature of Heartachoke's attacks, the embarrassing irony of the plant's name who defeated me. It's heartbreaking. This is something I'll never be able to truly communicate with someone who has never played, and that really pains me. But to those who have will know all too well what I'm talking about. And I know this is a goddamn mobile game, or the ongoing stigma against them is that they're all stupid, vapid games with less value than the currency of Venezuela. But just the feelings of victory and the devastating tragedies that can unfold in this game are just something else my words and gameplay cannot fully describe. So far, I haven't even brought up the most important thing about this game yet, and that's the heroes. Man, I just love these stupid fucking goofballs. Their names and designs are just so cheesy and perfectly fit the comic book aesthetic that the game has. Like, you got Captain Combustible, Brain Freeze, Grass Knuckles, The Smash, Rose, Professor Brainstorm. I also love how expressive they are, like how each one gets scared for their worthless and pathetic lives whenever they're on low HP, or how they get smug whenever they're winning, and how they scan your hand and nod reassuringly whenever you place a card. I enjoy Rust Bolt's stiff movements and his random gadgets that he pulls out on occasion, or Grass Knuckles' need to be always practicing his punching game and looking over his back to make sure no one is sneaking up on him, and Nightcap's obsession of trying to look like the main character at all times. Also, I'm not a comic book guy or a superhero guy in any capacity. The only time I saw a superhero movie is when my dad took me to one as a kid and I fell asleep halfway through. But seeing all the effort that was put into creating these high quality homages is really cool. I know that most Heroes players don't pay attention to the superhero comic theme and just mindlessly tap past any of the art, but it's pretty awesome seeing how these two different themes worked really well with each other. And this game looks really good as well. The designs for cards and heroes are fantastic. Low-key, I like it better than PvZ1 and way better than the art style in PvZ3. I don't know what it is about this minimalistic and cutesy art style, but just like, Redo it? Like, what the hell is any of this shit? I'm glad that the artist behind Heroes stayed true to the classic style, but gave its own flavor. Because some of the early in development screenshots for the game were not the best. This image easily has to be one of the worst. From the ugly and weird layout of the UI to Green Shadow judging your every move, the Smash's black hole of a mouth with an imp version of Doug Dimmadome,
and the Gargantuar.
Also, the music is amazing too. Each hero has their own theme and all of it is adaptive, speeding up whenever a hero's low in HP or driving up the intensity whenever plants and zombie minions are battling it out. Even the music when you're sitting on the menu for the multiplayer rank is perfect as well. And watching the game's audio director, Becky Allen, talk about how it was created is pretty magical. Yes, I'm that much of a fan. Man, heroes can be pretty funny too, like look at Neptuna's description. She is the first zombie to fight in a tank. It's just such a stupid joke that makes me laugh whenever I read it. And the description for Soul Patch is also pretty amusing. It has been gently encouraging Cherry Bomb and Sour Grapes to attend his meditation classes. I just adore the idea that all these cards have lives outside of battling, and Soul Patch just messages them every once in a while saying that they should come by. It's clear that this game wasn't a rushed product and had some serious time and effort poured into it. And all of these extra details really contribute to the overall polished and unique feel that this game has. This was simply an amazing launch for the game, being filled to the brim with fun gameplay, personality, and content, but most importantly, it had great potential. Of course, the occasional jank and bug soured the experience slightly, but hey, it was a new game, it happens. There was such an explorative atmosphere around the time as well. Tons of YouTubers, both established and new, would start creating videos about the game and start receiving hundreds of thousands or even millions of views per video. This was the beginning of the golden age. Just the pure hype and excitement for heroes at this time is something that can never be replicated again. And 11-year-old me was completely hooked. It was like for once, a card game would actually stick with me. I have abandoned so many other card games so quickly that it felt like this could just be another case of that. But through all odds, it wasn't. On June 8th, 2017, our eyes would be drawn towards the stars in the second set, Galactic Gardens. If I were to use one word to describe set 2, I would say expansive, adding 100 cards, environments, 2 new heroes, and 4 new traits, all mostly themed around space and technology. And oh my god, it was so fucking cool! The new cards really added a lot to the variety of the game, but the biggest overall game changer was definitely environments, and man, what a good idea. Ground lanes are always the plain and uninteresting triplets compared to their more interesting and dynamic siblings, so giving players the ability to change the ground lanes into whatever they saw fit for their decks just added a lot more layers of depth to the gameplay. Like, just take Planet of the Grapes for example. When a planet hurts a zombie hero here, draw a card. Simple enough. However, when combined with one of the new plant exclusive traits, Double Strike, it can give you some serious card advantage. If you are able to pull it off, not only did you just hit the opponent twice, but you just got a bonus of 2 new cards. Or you could just use Astro Shroom with it to get the freest card draw ever, with its ability to deal 1 bullseye damage to the opponent every time a plant is played. And this is only the tip of the environment Berg. Why the fuck did I write that? Holy shit, I'm just gonna fix that in post, that was bad. Like, you can make a zombie deadly and strike through, an extremely annoying combo. Or how about making a plant immune to all damage? Or how about genetic fucking cloning? But as much as an addition as environments were, they had 3 major caveats. 1, they are passive, requiring a minion to be on it in order to be useful, to which some environments need the minion to survive the turn in order to receive its effects. 2. Environments don't win you the game by themselves, and could potentially break your hand because of it, but the major downside to environments is that they can be replaced. You see that really cool environment over there that heals you? Well, your opponent can go no and place their own environment over it. I know I've been stuck in this game's pollen tube for quite a while now, so here's my first bit of criticism. I just know your fucking synapses really fired up after hearing that one, you sad worm. An oversight occurred with the balancing of environments. See, since plants can play all of their cards on phase 2, and zombies can only play their tricks and environments on phase 3, this should intuitively mean that zombie environments are more expensive. Because wouldn't it be really fucking stupid and discouraging if plants environments costed more, only to be replaced by cheaper zombie ones? Yeah, it's not like that. Why?
The world may never know.
However, this shouldn't take away from the power that environments can have, because under the right circumstances, they can completely take over a game. The new traits are also pretty cool, and while Double Strike, Overshoot, and Hunt were all fine additions, none could even come close to the trait that creates some of the most fun, random, and hype-inducing moments just ever. Conjure. Conjure's a simple ability on paper. When the conditions are met to conjure, such as being played or hitting the opponent's face, gain a random card from a certain category, from something as small as the Barrel Tribe or as massive as the entire set of Galactic Gardens. This still might sound unremarkable, and to some extent it can be. However, what makes Conjure so special comes from the simple fact that heroes are limited to cards and combos from 2 classes. So what if they had access to more, or even all 5? Meet Dr. Spacetime, an eccentric man based off of British. Whenever a screwdriver hits the plant hero, he draws you a random Galactic Gardens card, and discounts all conjured cards by 1. Say you're playing as Brain Freeze, a sneaky / beastly hero. It's a crazy intense game right now, and your opponent only has 5 HP, and you just cannot break through with your higher statted minions. Thankfully, there's an open lane for your Spacetime to attack, and when he does, you get the best possible card. Final mission: destroy a zombie, deal 4 damage. And assuming you don't fuck it up, you win the battle by the skin of your teeth. And the best part about all of this is that final mission is a crazy card. You would never have this opportunity normally if it wasn't for Spacetime. Now, the naysayers might say something like, "You could have ran a better card for this situation instead of Spacetime. That was a 1 in 50 chance of occurring. This deck sucks and isn't reliable for winning." And yeah, that's the point. With how intricate Heroes already is, by harnessing its RNG, you can push this game to the extreme of possibility that competitive decks cannot achieve in a similar way. It's an entirely different mindset of playing. Instead of making a well-rounded deck with counterplays and an actual fucking strategy, you just let the fate of the universe decide the outcome of a game, undeterred by the fact that you are significantly weaker than your opponent. Because when RNGesus looks down upon you and smiles, you are about to have a crazy game. And this epiphany would be a heavy influence in my decks going forward, leaning much more into conjure / card drawing decks, like using Cheese Cutter in all my beastly decks to conjure gourmet cards, which are surprisingly pretty good. I would also use Disconaut for its ability making all zombies with low strength deal bullseye damage, which is extremely useful for allowing your Spacetimes and Cheese Cutter to hit the opponent's face without worry. And I would use the plant version of Dr. Spacetime in all my Mega Grow decks, Captain Cucumber, who only conjures legendary cards. Now, this sounds exactly like an idea for a card that a child who doesn't understand game balancing would think of, but here we are. I would also use the powerful guardian trick Photosynthesizer, which gives the plant +2 health and also conjures a random set 2 card, alongside Starch Lord, who made the Root Tribe actually viable through buffs and conjuring. And the hero I'd use most during this time was the new huge Giganticus, Heroes, otherwise known as Big Baby in an infant car seat. Since there are no more unique variations or class combinations for heroes, the new heroes of both instead have to be made distinct by their superpowers, and while Beta Carotinas are pretty mediocre, the same couldn't be said for this huge baby, which were reaching near broken levels of territory. Okay, so he's a 1-cost 2/3 bullseye, what the fuck? Then he has 2 environments, of one of them giving a zombie strike through and a one-time freeze effect, and the other one conjures you a teleport if the zombie here survives. Teleport being one of the most influential cards in the entire game, conjured just like that. You know that one kid I mentioned earlier? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has a full-time job at PopCap now. But perhaps the most busted was his signature power, Terraformer 10,000, making all cards in your hand cost 1 less and conjuring you an environment. If you get this on turn 1, it's the best superpower in the entire game, hands down. It changes the timings of all cards to be 1 turn earlier, which can heavily throw off your opponent. And if you remember when I brought up Solar Flare's signature power of giving you +1 sun for the rest of the game, this is basically a better version of that. One of these new heroes saw a lot of play, and the other one got relegated to nothing more than a joke. Now, of course, Conjure is not objectively the coolest thing added, that's just my opinion, but if I have to delve so deeply into one facet of Set 2, just think about all the other shit that was added, like Mechanolith, making nut decks actually viable by making everyone attack with their health instead of their strength, including the zombies, which can mess up your opponents really badly and is also just really fun to play with, or Dark Matter Dragon Fruit becoming one of the premier finishers with its high stats, splash damage, and ability to render zombie tricks almost unplayable. Teleportation Zombie was just like, yeah, what if we made teleport, but you know, like, better? Oh cool, high health, gravestone, and allows for an infinite amount of zombies to be played during the trick phase. Which if you still didn't goddamn understand, Derek, you fucking piece of shit, is borderline overpowered. Or Quasar Wizard, or just Quasar for short, conjures you a goddamn superpower and puts a 2/2 guy on the board. Just crazy. You get the point. Cool cards were added, like a lot, so I'll just move on. Now, all of this was fucking awesome, don't get me wrong, but I would be remiss if I left out what EA did 3 days after Galactic Gardens released. Want to take a guess what our favorite game company did? It was anti-consumerism. Yeah, they made the rarities of cards higher and made ads give less gems when watched, making them both harder to obtain as you would have to grind more for less. This most likely dissuaded a good amount of people from really getting invested into the game, and it really suffered because of these deplorable and short-sighted attempts for profit. And yeah, that fucking sucks. This wasn't the first time that they did this either. This has been happening relatively often over the course of the game's life, and it's not like these bare-bone quests or single-player mode where they're to help the new players collect cards either. They give out nothing or just rewards not worth their time. These could have been improved a lot pretty easily, but then again, this isn't the main game mode and this isn't the main way of obtaining gems. It's multiplayer and ranking up. So I'm torn because so much more could have been done, but I'm glad they spent their time making an excellent multiplayer mode instead of a subpar single player and multiplayer. The new player experience is pretty bad after all this, not gonna lie. In the multiplayer mode, you're bound at some point to go against someone who's been playing the game far longer than you, and the game will be over before it even begins. And yeah, that's just not a good time. Of course the game was still fun and most importantly playable, but man, it's just such a fucking shame that any of this had to happen. But still, overall, Galactic Gardens was everything we could have wanted and more, expanding Heroes into something far greater than what it originally was. Both the quality and quantity were here with the same great art and humor. The meta was so shaken up that it left a lot of people feeling like they're re-experiencing the game for the first time again. Or maybe I just got early onset memory loss. Either way, it was fantastic. My ranking improved as well, regularly reaching Diamond League each season. reason. It felt so good finally reaching rank 30. It just felt like all my time and dedication were really paying off. This was definitely the golden age of heroes. The hype and fan base were going stronger than ever. It was now 8 months since I first started playing, and there didn't seem to be an end in sight. Maybe I should have stopped and appreciated it some more. On October 9th, 2017, Set 3 would be released, Colossal Fossils, and with it 50 new cards and 3 new traits/effects. It was exciting to see a new expansion added so soon, even if it was only 50 cards, with all of them being based around the idea of a prehistoric and savage time period with ferocious dinosaurs, dangerous plants, and managers. Jesus Christ, the humanity. And my mother's wallet. These new minions weren't to be messed around with. Many of them packed meta-changing traits like Dino Roar, which activates a minion's ability whenever a card is drawn, such as a +1/1 buff, spawning zombies onto the board or randomly dealing 2 damage to the enemy. And since this condition is so easy to activate, it's literally done automatically at the start of each turn, it made Dino Roar minions extremely versatile and effective. Soon enough, everybody would start using them in their decks, and I would spend hours grinding sparks in order to craft my favorite one, Stompodon. Its roar would give all minions in your hand a +1/1 buff, and combining it with cheap conjure cards like Zombie Middle Manager and some time, you could just flood the board with some absolute stat monsters, making my opponent wish they went back thousands of years ago to get their skull fucking Japan in the hopes of forgetting it. Or they could just close the app like a normal person would. That would work too. And the second big trait was evolution. It allowed you to play a plant or zombie on top of another one to trigger an effect. Please don't ask what happens to the first minion. Most of these effects were drawing cards, increasing stats, or miscellaneous stuff like freezing, bouncing, or vaporizing the enemy. Blockbuster became a really dominant card, being a 3/3 bullseye with an evolution ability of being able to take out 3 gravestones at once so they're all next to each other. And I've already mentioned this guy, but Zombolob as well, for being able to get an insanely high strength stat in 1 turn if you're able to get a lot of brains in that 1 turn. And the last trait was Untrickable. It just made the minion immune to tricks. It's pretty cool and actually good at times, but it just wasn't as nearly as dominant as the other 2. But the main thing that made Card Set 3 special wasn't any of the cool new themed cards, game-changing traits, or even the managers. It was instead a single card. The single most exciting card, the single most famous card, and most importantly, the single most RNG card. This is Evolutionary Leap.
We need a leap! We need a leap! We need one! Come on! Come on! We need a leap so bad! For the freaking win! For the freaking win! Come on! What the heck just happened? What in the world is going on today?
Remember how I said that Conjure allows for plays and combos that would never be possible? Well, Leaping takes the idea of this and takes it from an improbable anomaly of things going your way and turns it into a feasible reality. Instead of conjuring you a random card when played, Leap would transform a zombie into another zombie that cost 1 more right away, essentially upgrading them. Now, Leaping wasn't exactly a new idea. A few cards already had these capabilities in Set 2, but Evolutionary Leap really solidified this niche. One of my favorite combos to do was with Brain Vendor, who was basically a free weak minion because he costs 3 brains to play, but then just immediately gives them back. I don't know if he's stupid or just chill like that, but I appreciate it. This leaves enough brains to play Leap during the trick phase and turn that vendor from a 3-cost weak bitch into a potential 4-cost powerhouse, all 1 turn ahead of when they would usually be played. Now, this is the big distinction between Conjuring and Leaping. Conjuring is more of a one-time occurrence during games. Like, cool, you got the card that you desperately need. Good luck getting another one, dumbass. While Leaping is recurring recursive because who says you can't just leap that 4-cost card again, and then the card after that, and then the card after that. This made leaping far more consistent than conjuring, and eventually, when you ramp up enough, you will reach the highest echelon of leaping, Zombot 1000, the zombie with the highest base stats in the entire game, with the ability to destroy all plants on the field when played. This combined with other late game finishers just made the strategy of leaping a serious threat at times. My way of doing this is with Interdimensional Zombie and Transformation Station. Turn 1, play Interdimensional, it turns into a random 3-cost zombie if a science card is played. Turn 2, play Transformation Station, which leaps the zombie here if it survives the turn. It's also a science card, making the Interdimensional's ability activate, and then you just keep the zombie in that lane surviving turn after turn and profit. And while the plants don't have any tricks or environments that leap, they instead have Maul Kill, which when played leaps all plants on the field. I like to run a Mushroom Swarm deck with Pine Clone to turn all those cheapo mushroom cards into 4-cost cards, and then on turn 5 play Maul Kill, which will give you several 5-cost cards. Leaping did what Conjure couldn't: be reliable. It allowed for easier access to strong minions in a far more quick and gratifying way. However, this doesn't mean that Conjure's totally inferior. Leaping cannot give you tricks or environments or just card draw in general. Screw it, I'm not delaying this shit anymore. Conjure Leap. Conjure Leap. This is my favorite deck in the entire game, no doubts about it. Everything I've said before about being able to harness this game's RNG into producing absolutely insane moments or some shit has just been multiplied by a crazy amount. This deck's entire purpose is to get the most consistent conjuring and leaping possible, either from bouncing, generating extra brains, or teleportation, all with the main threat being Raiding Raptor, who just gains a monstrous +2 strength every time a card is drawn, which doesn't even take into account any of the powerful cards you could leap or conjure as well, which is all really easy to do with Space Time and Buried Treasure, which gives you a legendary card if you play a zombie on it. And even crazier because you could also conjure superpowers too using Thinking Cap. Now just plus all of this with HG superpowers and you get an RNG deck with insane potential, which in my opinion is one of the scariest kinds of decks. You just know I could talk a lot more about this, but I think you get the idea. RNG is fun in Heroes. It is some of the most engaging, complex, and thrilling shit I've ever seen from a video game. And the more serious decks were flourishing too. Many new meta cards were introduced like 3-Nut, which makes any plant place have their strength converted to 3, which is powerful as hell. You could just run cheap plants with low strength and high health like walnuts and garlic and just flood the board with them, creating high-statted plants fast. Quick Draw Conman would also become a staple in aggro decks for their pesky and relentless chip damage by dealing 1 to the opponent every time they draw a card. And yeah, you can just see how busted this can get pretty fast. And finally, Split Pea, who has a high strength stat for only a 2-cost card, and with the supposed downside of hitting yourself for 1 every time during the battle phase, which isn't bad at all because you could just charge your own block meter and block more often. What is that balancing? Honestly, this entire game's balancing can be pretty stupid, like Triceratops being a 2-cost 1/3 with Bullseye that goes by 1/1 every time a card is drawn, which can just get out of control way too fast, and is just way too good. Cob Cannon is probably just the best card, you know, like in the entire game. A 6-cost 6/6 with the ability to destroy zombie. Another card in the same class is Squash, which is a 5-cost destroy zombie. So for 1 more sun, you get a 6/6 on the field in the exact same effect. Its class typing also breaks it even further. Solar's the sun producing class with plenty of team up minions. So not only can you ramp up to it easily, it is also filled with Cob Cannon's evolution requirements. Explosive Fruitcake is a 2-cost trick that deals 7 damage to plant minions only. 7 damage! Most plants in the game can't survive that, and all for 2 brains. It does draw the opponent a fruit card, which is not too bad of a tribe to be honest, but still 7 damage is just ludicrous. And finally, Space Cowboy. What a beautiful mess of a card. Firstly, a 4-cost 3/5 is already above average stats, but its ability is the scariest part. Every time it attacks the plant hero, which is guaranteed because of strike through, it moves to the right and attacks again, and then it moves to the right and attacks again. And this cycle continues until it either reaches the water lane because it also has fucking amphibious for some reason, or until the opponent blocks. The reason why this is so busted is because Space Cowboy can easily deal 9 to 12 damage on turn 4 for very little effort, and god, it really deserves a nerf. But why did I tell you any of this? Of course these cards need a rework. Still waiting. Any second now. However, this highlights the overall balance that Heroes has. A bit late talking about it, but whatever. And what's that overall balance? Well, if both sides have stupidly overpowered and broken cards, then it's balanced. Yeah, it's that simple. And it stays true to that to a T. Never at any point while playing I've been truly like, oh, plants are 100% better than zombies, or vice versa. And with how quick some gamesters are to call out even the slightest infractions to their favorite games, I think it's pretty remarkable how well Heroes manages to pull everything off. It's honestly pretty crazy how small this update was and how it added so much. It was an extremely welcome sight for sure. The community was still going strong and the game was getting more and more established with each passing season. Little did we know that Heroes just began a transformation, one that was slowly and surely killing it. Triassic Triumph is a card set? Yeah, that's a good start. Not a bad card set by any means, but definitely the most underwhelming one. 50 new cards, I honestly expected more, but you know, the game is going through a bit of a slump, I'm sure things will pick up. Wait, that's odd, this set has the exact same theme as Colossal Fossils. And wait, what? They reused some of the animations. And what the fuck? Some of these cards are minions that already existed in the game but didn't have their own card yet. What about the traits? Oh, sick, 8 new ones? Oh, what the hell, some of these are just evolution but specific now, and the one that was added is called Fusion, which is basically evolution but the other way around and getting the effect. Please still don't ask what happens to the first minion, I'm just gonna keep it short. Triassic Triumph certainly did not triumph. It doesn't triumph under any circumstance. Like, if they'd even like it enough themselves to make a fucking walkthrough trailer on it. That's how low this was. There were some cool cards added, I guess, and I mean, most of the balance changes and all the bug fixes were good too. And yeah, that's kinda it for set 4. Not bad by any means, just like it's there. But you don't exactly want to get rid of it either. Like a 6 out of 10. I honestly expected to have more to say going off of how fucking long I talked about the previous 3 sets, but no, I don't. Now, despite the disappointment, the game was still in a really good spot. Heroes has been expanded on more than ever now. It has evolved from a simple game with a unique presentation into a fully fledged gem of an experience, with so much complexity and gameplay packed within that could provide hundreds of hours of things to do and learn. And other than the rare stumble, the game was riding higher than ever. For this is truly the definitive edition of the game, but we were also mostly writing for better days to come, ones with new updates and bigger card sets. But those days would never come. As everyone was figuring out all the new cards, Plants vs. Zombies Heroes was unexpectedly forced to plunge into a murky and bleak abyss that would spell a tragic and permanent dark age. It wasn't obvious at first that anything was wrong, but as the months went on, this insidious radio silence would only become more apparent. It was now mid-May, 3.5 months since Triassic Triumph released, and nothing. People were still experimenting with and mastering all of set 4, and that was all well and good of course, but this was prime time for a new batch of cards to drop, and to everyone's shock, an update did drop. There were no new cards, instead just a balance change and a bug fix graphics update. I mean, it was a good change, but like, where's the cards, man? Alright, maybe they're just in a bigger slump than we thought. All good, you're just a several billion-dollar company after all. Don't sweat it, like, honestly. But there was still no response. The months kept on passing by and nothing. It was around this time that I started to really feel contempt whenever a message would appear in the announcements tab just saying, "Have you tried the daily challenge today?" Or, "Hey, need some more cards? Spend money." It was just so goddamn soulless. Reading these felt like a slap in the face to my loyalty and dedication to this game. By December, there was still no update in sight, and fans were getting extremely worried that the game has been abandoned.
And this is where the problems begin. We're approaching the year anniversary of Set 4, but literally all we've had from PopCap/EA is a single balance update in the spring, which changed the stats of a few cards to keep the meta from stagnating. A Reddit user named P-Lover also leaked another possible upcoming balance update on November 5, 2018. Besides that, we've literally received nothing. Not even communication from PopCap. Many have tried to reach out through the official forums, Twitter, even submitting tickets asking if we can expect more actual content, but they're full-on radio silent.
I just couldn't believe how this game that's been with me for a sixth of my life at this point was just fading away. It just hurt on a level I wasn't ready for. Video games have always been something that was very special to me, but they're never really accessible until later on into my life. As I said in the very beginning of this video, I never grew up with a computer or consoles to play games on, and I never got my own phone until I was 14. So that meant I had to rely on watching YouTubers or my friends play games in order to get my fix. Sometimes I'll get asked to play, but I'd always say no because my fear of being outed as not knowing how to play Minecraft or Mario Kart was stronger than me actually wanting to create these memories. Saying this now as an adult sounds funnily pathetic, and you're right, it is. But come on, this is kid stuff I'm talking about. And so by the time my mom trusted me enough with her phone, it was magical. It felt like a whole new world opened up to me. I could finally play the games that I wanted to while hiding away from the totally judging eyes of my peers. And naturally, I gravitated towards card games since I always liked them when I was younger. And no card game, let alone video game, had stuck with me like Heroes did. And after 2 years, the party was basically over, and I had to accept that. 8.5 months after Triassic Triumph released, Heroes got its final major update. Take it in, everyone. This is the last one. It was just a balance change update, left a lot of cards in a better state, and was just good all around. I find it amusing but also quite saddening at the same time that the last line of the update said to, "Please rate our app in the store after every update." Like, come on. And the "thanks for playing," like it's the end of the fucking credits. Oh my god, what an absolute pitiful whimper of a send-off. But that raises the question, why did this happen? What would cause EA and PopCap to take one of the most inventive and creative Plants vs. Zombies games and to never give it the attention it deserved? Well, thanks to the Reddit user Nutshell in Nutshell, we have the answers. So this next section will essentially be me paraphrasing this post, and also a bit of a section Dan Rate's amazing video about the downfall of PvZ as a whole. I highly suggest you watch and read both of these, and also Narkelly's video if you want the full context about these subjects. Links to everything in the description. When Heroes released, it made a splash, but not as big as one as EA or PopCap would have liked. They wanted this game to sell on the same levels as PvZ 2, which did not even remotely happen. I personally think this was due to the lack of advertising that the game received. Like, it was literally just the trailer for the game in each of the card sets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall ever seeing anything else. I assume they must have thought that Heroes being connected to one of the most popular video game IPs was enough, but clearly it wasn't. Like, there was not a lot of community involvement and there was no official tournaments being held. Every card game does that nowadays. Heroes also had an extremely hard time finding an audience, unlike how PvZ 1 and 2 did. I think this is just because it's simply not as casual as them. It's high complexity and the fact that it's an actually well-built collectible card card game which made people like me become a fan, most likely pushed away a lot of the potential audience that got bored or confused in the first couple minutes and uninstalled it. And this was most likely exacerbated by the heavy amounts of grinding and microtransactions as well. I remember hearing some discourse saying that the art style being more cartoony and not a conventional CCG art style such as Hearthstone would be a turnoff to that audience as well. I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but still, EA and PopCap took a risk, and fortunately it resulted in the creation of an amazing card game. But even more sadly, it resulted in one of the biggest flops in the Plants vs. Zombies franchise. So what did they do about this catastrophic failure? Well, they decided to lay off directors, senior artists, and animators from the PopCap Seattle team, which is just a complete shame that so many talented people had to go through the pains of now being jobless in Seattle. And the thing that honestly shocked me the most about this is that this mass layoff occurred only 7 months after the game Global launched, meaning the game was already abandoned by key members and long dead before the release of the final major update. But that raises another question. How did the rest of the content for the game get made at all? Well, firstly, the team already made a lot of progress for the future, but this still wasn't enough. That's why sets 3 and 4 had the same theme, were split into 2, and why there's so many filler cards and reused animations. And for everything else, they outsourced the work to Hibernim. They were hired to essentially finish sets 3 and 4, and then somehow it got even worse. Because a month or two after set 2 was released, Hibernim underwent an even bigger mass layoff, which was just like the final nail in the coffin for this game. Heroes had so much potential, so many people cared about it, there was so much love and passion poured into it. It should have been something truly great, but it was so tragically and grossly mishandled and was abandoned before it had an actual chance to prove itself. It just hurts. This is where the story's supposed to end. Just another case of an amazing game being brutally ravaged by some uncaring higher force who can only see dollar signs. But Heroes is more than that. Because just when the game was teetering on the edge of extinction, the player base did the only thing they could do, stick with Heroes, and a diehard community was formed around this game, and not a small one either. People kept on finding out new things about the game, monthly events and big tournaments were being held, and people kept on making videos about the game, reaching millions upon millions of views. Right when Heroes was supposed to die, it was brought out from that murky and bleak abyss and resurrected as a game that still had things to offer, and more importantly, a game that became used to defying expectations. The future was rapidly approaching, and the game was left at the hands of the players to keep it alive. And there has been one person that, to me, represents why Heroes is so incredible. I need to now properly introduce you all to a man, going by the moniker of Fry 'Im Up. Fry got a start back even before the game Global launched, making ultimately low quality but obviously very passionate videos about Heroes. God, I remember that old intro sequence he had with him in Infinity side hugging or some shit. What a fucking editing marvel that was. Over time his skill improved, not only with the game but video creation as well, and his passion would remain unwavering. By far he's the most well-known Heroes YouTuber and streamer, and his impact on the relevance and longevity of this game has been nothing short of massive. When I was first starting out, I used to use this channel to learn about the game. What was the best budget deck? Which packs do I open? Which cards do I craft? How the fuck do I do anything in this game? And as I began to get better, just seeing how many different decks Fry would use day in and day out only furthered my fascination with this game. It was just so entertaining to see him run a completely wild deck, get some crazy highlight, and in my mind be like, oh my god, I should totally try to craft all the cards for this deck. Or however the fuck I sounded when I was 13. But sometimes, there were periods where I was completely burnt out on Heroes, and this could last for months at a time. But if there has been one staple in the Heroes community, it's Fry and his dedication. It personally has brought me and plenty of others back to the game by simply seeing that he's still uploading and still having fun. Also, it would be a big disservice to not mention that there have been many other greats within the Heroes scene. Undying Pharaoh, Hector III, Tryhard, and Narkelly to name a few. It's now early 2021, and the biggest tournament ever had just been announced, Heroes Pantheon, where the best of the best players are invited, and of course this included Fry. This event happened when I took a break from the game for quite some time, and when I returned in 2022, I finally managed to reach rank 50. My dream since I was 11 years old was now achieved. I have reached the quote-unquote highest echelon of heroes, which has just turned into the first stepping stone into cementing yourself as an actual top player. There were now elo ladders in the more competitive side of the community, which more accurately determine skill than the original ranking system. Heroes has progressed so much that people need to create their own ranking system now, and their decks are as refined and sophisticated as ever. Going into the first stage of the tournament, which were 8 rounds of best of 5s in the Swiss format, some people were skeptical of Fry. Everyone knew he was good at the game, but his opponents just looked that much superior.
Wow, we rolled triple ones.
Fry would go on to completely dominate the first 5 rounds, greatly using decks based around outpacing the enemy early with heavy aggression, like using Triceratops and other bullseye plants combined with bonus attacks. Pirate Monkey would end up coming in clutch in round 5 game 2, by stealing just enough block meter charge to survive what would have been a lethal attack, and to win shortly after. And since the first 8 rounds of the tournament were in the Swiss format, where winning the highest number of games was the main goal, he was sitting pretty on his so far unscratched throne. But this is where his luck would take a turn for the worst.
Bro, no, oh no. Oh my gosh, I can't deal with this, man. That's guaranteed lethal. I can't believe he just did that. It's exactly 14. That was a miracle. This was the one scenario I didn't want to see.
His blazing start was quickly petering out, but if he could find some magic in round 8, he could end the first half of this tournament in one piece.
This actually grows the Nanosaurus Rex in extra time here. It has to be toxic waste him. Cuckoo's close! Cuckoo's close! He would have been down to 1 health, but... Whew. Wow. Come on. We got it. What a great opponent, though. I mean, props to Happy Shroom.
He did salvage his win total, ending with a respectable 20 wins and 11 losses. But was he just feasting on weaker opponents? Was his struggle in the last 3 rounds signs to come? Entering the playoffs is where the Swiss format would be dropped and replaced by a double elimination bracket. Just 2 bad rounds and it's over.
When I come back into this game, we just need some heals. Oh, come on! I didn't play her on Bungie. I didn't play her enough. Which of his powers win the game for him now? So Embiggen does nothing. Freeze and blow. Blow, that's guarantee lethal with blow. He got the 1 in 3 blow. He got the 1 in 3 Embiggen. We actually could have gotten back into this game. We actually could have won this game if we would have gotten Embiggen or freeze there, bro. Especially if we got Embiggen.
After getting revenge on the opponent who 3-0'd him previously, he would be instantly knocked down after losing one of his lives in only round 2. This is essentially a death sentence at this stage of the tournament. There are just so many other strong competitors left, and your only safety net is now gone.
You would need so much, yeah, it's like... Sighing a sigh of relief, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the final.
Fry's gameplay looked better than ever, and he found himself in the grand final against LGTYQZ, who hasn't lost a single life yet. It all comes down to this.
Oh, maybe I'll take this out now, in case he has Elderberry, he'll be able to play somewhere. This is the exact situation, him blocking and getting heals, I mean, I could have saved it. Right. For all you banana haters out there, Brainana wins us the first set. It's guaranteed lethal on Brainana on 6, Brainana on 7. So much for them bricking. Guaranteed, because the pogo lives because of the freeze. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him, boys. It's guaranteed lethal with lock-in against elusives. It's guaranteed. This doesn't out of the environment. So we're gonna go for 7, go for 11. And alright, so a really huge shout out to everyone who organized this tournament, everyone who played in it. This has been a hell of an experience. I mean, it's been really, really fun. I've never played PvZ Heroes on this level before. I mean, again, playing in ranked and playing this tournament is such a different type, predicting opponents' matchups. And yeah, it looks like all the hard work and preparation. An embarrassing amount of hours, dozens of hours for sure, going into preparing this. It looks like it paid off. Hope you guys enjoyed. I certainly did. That was quite the journey. Peace. This is Fry.
This was simply an incredible display of how well Heroes could be a legit esport. The story of Fry being an underdog opponent who was never expected to actually win, taking it all against some of the best competition this game has to offer is just amazing. This is how dedicated the community is. After years of no support from the devs, they all come together to create such a fantastic spectacle, and creating some of the best decks ever. Honestly, any of my previous decks that rely on RNG are jokes. These are what real decks look like, and these were some of the best matches ever. That final game, man, absolute cinema. And the thing that makes this win much more impressive to me is that Fry isn't generally perceived as being one of the top players / deck builders. Now, I'm in no means the one that should be really talking about the meta and its development. I'm just a casual player who wanted to talk about what specifically interested me about this game, but let me try anyways. Now, some people may question how there have been been meta shifts in a game that at this point was stagnant for 2 to 3 years, but I assure you there have been. There's a database that's been actively updated for years detailing all the little improvements, matchup strengths and weaknesses, the origin of the deck itself, and so much more. There's also this Reddit thread that's been compiling the best competitive decks for each hero since 2022, with 14 pages of edits and updates. It's all just very interesting to look through, and it's really cool seeing how much time people have devoted into furthering the meta. And perhaps even cooler is that some guy who was never perceived as a player to take it all in the end, just playing the decks that he thought were good and ended up winning anyways, is just amazing. 2024. Almost 8 years since the game global launched at the time of writing. Looking back at this entire game's history, I'm surprised that any of it even happened at all, and how after everything, Heroes is still going. I know I've been saying that throughout this entire stupid fucking video, that it may as well mean nothing at this point, but why I have been repeating myself so much is because this is a mobile game. A mobile game! By far the most disposable and vapid medium for games since its inception, being so devoid of soul and originality that it became known for being time wasters, which is not a compliment at all. Being actually fun and meaningful, nah man, just do the bare basics while cramming ads and microtransactions down their throats like the stimulating craving sad sacks they are. And while Heroes did fall into that trap, instead of being defined by it like every other mobile game, it decided to be more. When I got into middle school, otherwise known as Hell on Earth, I got the PC I'm still using to this day. Thanks, Dad. Let's just say I caught up for missing out earlier in life. However, despite me playing objectively better games since 2017, Heroes stuck with me, past any of the PC games that felt like they should have stuck with me because I've been hearing them hyped up for years now. And all this retrospection made me realize something. Heroes is a phenomenon that may never be replicated again, because who thought that Heroes could be an original work and not another Hearthstone ripoff? Who thought that Heroes could have fun and complex gameplay, and who thought that after all of this time, Heroes would still be up and kicking? You know what, I finally thought of the name for the 5th era, the Defiance era. I just like the ring to it. And if you think I'm being hyperbolic about this Defiance shit, you might be right. In the ranked multiplayer mode, there are seasons, which end after 5 weeks, and depending on your rank, you are given rewards and sent back down the ladder just to climb up it again in the next season. And this worked perfectly until February 14th, 2023, where when Season 60 was supposed to end and roll into Season 61, that didn't happen. For weeks, Season 60 remained, but out of the blue on April 12th of the same year, they released an update fixing the issue. It's nice to know that there's still someone in PopCap who cares about this game, but I find the reason why the extended stay of Season 60 the most interesting. Apparently, only 60 seasons were programmed into the game, and coupled with how long it took to notice and fix it, I think that even the developers themselves didn't expect the game to last this long. Heroes is so defiant that it even outdid the code and the creators. At the time of writing the script, it is currently the 75th season. Please don't make fun of my rank. But this leads to the ultimate question. What made people stay with Heroes? Well, if you've gotten this far into the video without realizing, the game is really good and fun, and it continues to live because of its quality, and despite its many flaws still, it has a unique appeal that no other game can provide, and I hope I was able to show that to you. Now is probably the time that I should say, oh, you should go out and play Heroes and show the game some love. But, no, I'm not gonna do that. Why? Because no matter how much I've gushed over Heroes, compiling all my thoughts about it into a single video, trying to show people why this game is so special, you won't download it. I just know you won't. And this isn't some weird reverse psychology type shit either. How many times have you watched a "this game is a hidden masterpiece that you never heard of" type video, or had a friend tell you about a game that they really enjoy and been like, oh yeah, I should totally check out that game, thanks for telling me that. And you don't. and you forget about it. Don't lie, we've all done it. So if you actually decide to try out Heroes and prove me wrong, hell yeah, good for you. Just know that the new player experience is not the best and there's no shame in using glitches to get yourself all the cards in the game. I would link something here, but I'm pretty sure the old method is currently broken, so yeah, don't get a fucking Peter Griffin virus, I guess. But if there's one thing I want you to remember about Plants vs. Zombies Heroes, I want it to be this. People care about this game. Heroes matters to so many people, and call me biased, but I just can't think of a whole lot of games, let alone mobile games, you can say that for. There have been several times at work or at school where I was just playing Heroes and someone would walk by and ask, "Hey, what game is that?" And I would say, "Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. It's Plants vs. Zombies, but a card game." And they would go, "Oh neat," and walk away. A part of me wants to divulge into all this game's nuances and shit like that, but in order to not seem like a crazy person, I don't, and honestly, they don't want to hear about it. But I still kind of hate the undermining nature of that description, because while yes, it is a card game, crazy I know, right? It is an amazing card game with such incredible gameplay and such a lengthy history and story that you need way more hours to explain it in its entirety, and someone way more qualified than some fan on the internet. And that was the main driving force behind this entire video, is the fact that I just can't sit down with somebody and do this entire spiel. I have to present these thoughts in a video format in order to explain it all. I know that this video will most likely have no significant impact in convincing people that Heroes is legitimately an amazing game, but at the very least, I know I tried. Okay, now this is where the video ends. Cue the bittersweet moment and say some shit like, "I am sad that my beloved game had to go out this way. Go home." But again, this is Heroes we are talking about, so it isn't as simple as that. There is one last wrinkle to the story. On July 4th, 2024, a new official datamine balance change update was discovered. This is how determined the players are, playing Heroes for so long with barely any updates that the devs went back and actually started to work on the game again. And during the production of this video, on December 9th, 2024, the update came out and active balance change updates have been following the release. The wait is over. This is the beginning of an entirely new era, and while some of the changes can be hit or miss, that was to be expected of course. It's not like after 6 years they're gonna get everything correct. In fact, they never have, but still, a lot of the changes are good or at the very least interesting. Like most of the overpowered cards that I mentioned received nerfs. There's so many new strategies and combos to mess around with now, and of course new Conjure cards, which have been so fun to mess around with. I fucking love this game. Overall, I'm very hopeful for the future of this game, because there's never been a better time than ever to be a fan of Heroes. I just don't think I'll ever be able to properly communicate waking up to see that the update dropped, and while feeling the sensation of all of these memories rushing back to me, while also being terrified as hell that I didn't record enough footage on the old version, which thankfully they didn't immediately force the update on people. So I played Heroes for 10 hours straight recording footage. Yeah. I guess that this means my video's now outdated, which has been something that fucking stressed me throughout the entire production of this video. But I think it's outdated in perhaps the best possible way, because how fucking insane is this coincidence? After all this time, Hero still surprises me. It has been over 8 years since I first started playing Heroes. A lot has changed for me in that time, but if there has been one thing that remained a constant all throughout it, it's Heroes, a game that was once destined to become the next PvZ2, who ended up failing at every turn, and instead of falling into mediocrity, it became something more. It became defiant, unabashedly itself, and unkillable. Thank you to every game developer, YouTuber, wiki writer, fan, and game developer who has even dedicated a fraction of their time towards this beautiful game. Here's to another 8. This has been a love letter to Plants vs. Zombies Heroes. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.